Have you ever gotten to the end of the year, looked at your bank account, and just wondered where all the money went? I mean, you track the big stuff, right? Rent, car payments, groceries. But there's this huge chunk of your money that's just being siphoned off by costs you probably never even see. Well, today we're going to pull back that curtain and look at the invisible price tags that are attached to almost everything you buy and do. So let me just ask you this straight up. Think back over the last year. Where did $3,200 of your money go? I mean, that's not chump change. That's a nice vacation or a serious payment on some debt. But for most of us, that money, it just kind of vanished into thin air. Let's go find it. And here's the answer. According to a pretty eye-opening report by Consumer Reports, the average American is losing about $3,200 a year to hidden fees and charges. Now, these aren't the costs you budget for. Oh no, they are little fees tucked away in the fine print of bills you're already paying, and they are absolutely designed to be overlooked. But when you add them all up, wow, the number is just staggering. Okay, so let's start breaking that number down. The first and maybe the most obvious layer of these hidden costs are what people are now calling junk fees. And you've definitely seen these. These are all those little extra charges that magically appear on your bills for everyday stuff, from grabbing dinner to just watching TV. And believe me, they are everywhere. You see that little service fee on your restaurant bill? That can be up to 20% before you even tip. Hotels are famous for destination fees, charging you an extra $50 a night to use their own pool. Your bank hits you with a $35 overdraft fee. Each one feels kind of small in the moment, right? But they are happening all the time, adding up so much faster than you think. Cable companies are absolute masters of this game. They'll advertise this great low price, say $69.99 a month. You think, okay, I can do that. But then the actual bill comes. And suddenly you've got a broadcast TV fee, a regional sports fee, an equipment rental fee, and that affordable plan is now over $100. The price you saw was never, ever the real price. And that gap, that's a pure hidden cost. Ed Mierzwinski from the U.S. Public Interest Research Group really nailed it when he was talking about bank fees. He said you should have immediate access to your money without penalty. Just think about that for a second. We've gotten so used to these little penalties, a fee to get your own cash out of an ATM, a penalty if you overdraft, that we kind of forget they go against the most basic idea that your money is actually yours. But hey, hidden costs aren't always just those extra fees on a bill. Sometimes the cost is the system itself, a system so ridiculously complex that just trying to follow the rules end up costing you a ton of time and money. It's basically a hidden tax on complexity. And really, is there any better symbol for this than the good old Form 1040? For millions of us, this isn't just a piece of paper. It's an annual headache. It's stress, confusion, and yeah, it's an expense. It represents a system so enormous that most of us have no chance of navigating it by ourselves. And the personal cost? It's pretty significant. Check this out. The average American spends 13 hours and pays $290 out of their own pocket just to comply with the tax code. That's more than a full day of work and almost $300 gone. And remember, that's not your tax bill. That's the hidden cost you pay, just for the privilege of paying your taxes. So why is it so complicated and expensive? Well, partly because the U.S. tax code is an absolute monster. We're talking over 4 million words long. It's this giant maze of rules and deductions and credits. And a system that complex basically forces an entire industry of tax software and accountants into existence, who we then have to pay just to help us follow the rules. And when you zoom out and look at the whole country, the number is it's jaw-dropping. The total economic burden of tax compliance, that's combining the value of all of our lost time plus our out-of-pocket expenses, comes to $464 billion a year. That is a massive hidden anchor dragging on the entire economy, and it all comes from complexity. Okay, so we've got fees that are tacked on at the end, and we've got costs from sheer complexity. But what about the costs that are baked into the system right from the very beginning? These are like invisible price tags, often put there by government policy, that change the price of almost everything you buy. This is where we run into something called indirect taxes. See, unlike sales tax, which you can see right there on your receipt, these costs are already hiding inside the sticker price. When a company has to pay a new regulatory fee or a special excise tax on their product, where do you think that cost ultimately goes? Yup, it gets passed right along to you, the consumer. But the biggest, most powerful indirect tax of all is inflation. It's kind of simple, actually. The government issues debt to raise money. The central bank can then create more money to help finance all that debt. But now you have way more dollars chasing the same amount of stuff, so the value of every single dollar you've worked hard to save goes down. Your purchasing power gets weaker. No one ever sends you a tax bill for it, but your money is worth less. It is a silent tax on your savings. All right, now for our final category, and honestly, this one might be the most surprising of all. This is where big societal problems, the kind of stuff you see on the nightly news, end up adding a hidden surcharge to your bill at the grocery store. So I have a question for you. What in the world does a store robbery have to do with the price you pay for a gallon of milk? They seem completely disconnected, right? Well, some new research shows a direct and pretty fascinating link between the two. So, a group of researchers took a close look at Washington state, matching up crime data with the actual prices at stores. They wanted to see, okay, what happens to prices when a store gets hit by organized retail crime, like a robbery or a break-in? And the results were crystal clear. The store that actually got robbed, it raised its prices by about 1.8%. But here's the crazy part, the spillover. Nearby competing stores, even though they weren't robbed, also raised their prices by 1.5%. Why? Well, they're probably investing in more security or their insurance went up. A single crime at one store ends up creating a hidden crime tax for the entire neighborhood. So let's put it all together. From junk fees on your bills and ridiculously complex tax forms to the silent tax of inflation and even local crime rates, we've uncovered this whole hidden ecosystem of costs. So what does this all mean for how we think about our own money? That $3,200 that goes missing every year, it isn't from just one thing. It's a combination of all these forces working together. It's the obvious junk fees, the cost of compliance, these indirect taxes, and even these societal costs that get passed down. They all work together, constantly chipping away at your wallet. I think the biggest takeaway here is pretty simple. The price you see on the tag is just the start of the story. Underneath the surface, there's this incredibly complex web of forces that are constantly shaping the true cost of everything. And just being aware of them, just seeing them for what they are, is the first and maybe the most important step to really understanding where your money is going. So, that leaves us with one final question to think about. We've uncovered a few of these hidden costs today, but now that you know what to look for, what other invisible forces do you think are shaping your wallet? What other parts of the system are costing you money in ways you've never even considered before?